Has fallen over the room, so I guess it's time to start the Milton City Council Candidate Forum. And once again, we are going to give each candidate time to make a 2-minute opening statement. And after that, we'll be asking each candidate questions that have been prepared by members of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce. We will go in order, and as I mentioned last time, pass the deal with who answers the question first. Once a candidate has been asked their question, they will each have 2 minutes to give their answer. When there's 30 seconds left in the time allotment, you will see Jolynn hold up, well, when she's not holding up a camera, she'll be holding up a sign that says that you have 30 seconds to finish up. She will hold up a second sign when there's 10 seconds left for you to wrap up your answer. And as you heard with Mayor Chesmore in the last forum, if you get to the end of your time, you will hear the bicycle bell. All right, and once again, beyond the questions that the Chamber has prepared, if any audience members have questions that they would like to see asked, please raise your hand. Mark Warren will give you an index card and something to write with so that you can submit your question if time allows. And again, if your question is appropriate to the race, we will fit that in for you. I'd like to introduce the candidates this evening. Our 4 candidates, challenger Linda Clark, former councilperson, and current council members Anissa Welch, Don Vruink, and Brett Frazier. All right, we will start. The order was determined by draw, and I should also mention that there is a 5th candidate that is on the city council ballot. Mike Varan is on the ballot that you'll see on April 2nd. Mike is pulling out of the race. He has requested that his name not be in consideration. So Mike will not be here this evening. He is no longer in the race. So we'll start with a 2-minute opening statement from each of the candidates, and we will start with the challenger, Linda Clark. So Linda, go ahead.
My name is Linda Clark, and I am running for city council because when I was on council before, I truly enjoyed it. I really liked listening to what everyone had to say. I'm not afraid to go out and knock on your door or stop you in the grocery store and say, this is what's going on. What would you like for me to do? I am a activist as far as keeping people physically moving in this city. And as you will probably be able to tell from my past decisions that I have made for the city council, those are my common goals, is just to keep people moving. I'm very excited about the YMCA coming in. It's a project that we've been working on for a long time, and it's nice to see it coming to happen. I have 2 Marines. I have one daughter that's graduating in May, and they're all very supportive of what I'm doing. My husband, he's also very supportive. And I don't know what else you'd like to hear from me. If you have any questions, anytime you can call me.
Thank you. Our second candidate is an incumbent, Anissa Welch. Anissa, go ahead with your opening statement, please.
Hi, I'm Anissa Welch, and I'm running for City Council for a 2nd term. I was elected 2 years ago. I have lived in the city of Milton for approximately 10 years. I have 3 children, Kayla, who is 25, Jake, who is 23, and Teddy, who is 16. They've all gone to the Milton School District, so we've really had a lot of involvement with the Milton community over the years. And I found that it's really a great place to raise your kids. It's a great place to live. It has so many things to offer. I've enjoyed being part of the city council and being part of some of the projects that were started before I was elected, and being able to bring my input to the new projects that we have just started. I graduated in 1990 from UW-Whitewater with a bachelor's degree in education. I've been employed by Rock County for 20 years as a juvenile probation officer right now. And I really would like to continue my work on the city council. Like Linda, this is something that I really enjoy. I love working with my fellow council members. We don't always agree on everything, which is a good thing. When you elect your leaders, you want to have a broad representation of the community. You want to have diverse leadership. I think my background and my skills and my long history of community involvement with Master Gardening, the Red Cross, the Milton Area Youth Center, the Independence Day Committee, the Goodrich Square Development Committee, the Milton Youth Coalition, all of these community projects that I've worked on help me be a better representative for the citizens of Milton. And I'm excited to be here tonight, and I look forward to being reelected.
All right, thank you very much. Just a reminder, make sure your microphones are on, so double check. I'm sure
Can I
yours
do it
is.
again?
Our next candidate is also an incumbent, Don Vruwink. Don, let's hear your opening statement, please.
Well, you know, this two-minute limit is tough for me because I'm used to talking a lot longer. So, yes, I'm Don Vruwink. I taught here at Milton High School for 32 years. I ran for council because I thought when I retired I needed something to do because I coached 90 high school teams through my teaching career, so I was always busy all the time, and I thought the council would keep me busy, which I found it surely does. And it really, and I've enjoyed every minute of being on the council because I like being around people, I like talking to people, and my initial goal to run was to work with our parks because I thought our parks weren't up to the standard that I wanted them to be when I was recreation director. I was recreation director for 13 years in Milton in the 1980s into the 1990s, and I thought the parks had deteriorated somewhat. Since I've been on council with the help of Linda Clark on our rec committee, I think we've turned that around. I was able this last year to raise about $20,000 that taxpayers didn't have to pay from the people I knew over the years that I had their kids in class, and you know, I thought I went the extra mile for them, and they were willing to give back and donate things for the park and do things. And I currently have a project going this year with, we're going to be building 3 dugouts this spring from people that I knew who are willing to give back and donate their time and donate money for projects. And so I want to continue to do that. I've also come from a political family. My cousin Amy is a state legislature. My cousin's boy is a 24-year-old mayor of Wisconsin Rapids. My son is going to Washington, D.C. to study this fall. He got an internship to work in the nation's capital. And so our family's always been taught to give a lot back. And so, and I enjoy being with these people here. They're all great people, and they all care about Milton. And I'm hoping I can be working with 3 of them again. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Don. Our final candidate, besides running for mayor, is also running for re-election for his council seat, Brett Frazier. Your opening statement.
Yep, I'm still Brett Frazier, and Jim tells me some of the questions you heard me ramble on about earlier are the ones I get to answer again, so I apologize if I repeat, but I think some of the messages we'll be talking about here, some of the answers we'll be giving are just that important. Started out 4 years ago, started out doing a lot of listening. I ran because I was, like a lot of people, I saw a lot of unanimous votes. I saw a lot of things going through that I just had some questions about. And when you get on the council like this, you have an opportunity to do this a couple of different ways. And you kind of go blindly. You can just do what you think is right, or you can balance that with talking to folks. And so I've knocked on a lot of doors this campaign season. I've talked with a lot of citizens. And the number one issue I'm hearing is concerns about affordability of life in Milton. In my 4 years on the council, I've tried to be a voice and a vote of common sense and wise fiscal policy. I'm looking forward to some of the hard work we've got ahead in the next 4 years, or 2 years. And I think what makes this work so enjoyable, and they're long hours. We make $1,200 a year, to do this. But what makes it all worth it is the fact that I get to show up with 6 other people, the mayor and 5 other council people, and I'm surrounded by people who are just trying to do good for the community. That's not always the case in every community. Some small towns like ours, are lucky to have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 folks who are trying to do the right thing, the good thing, and who are smart, qualified people. We got a council full of them, and we have a couple of extra candidates who won't be on this body, who would be perfectly qualified and capable. But I hope in the last 4 years I've done enough to earn your vote. If not for mayor, then certainly for council, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. We'll now begin with our questions for each candidate, and for the very first question, we begin with the same order in which we did the opening statements. So, Linda, the Highway 26 bypass, it's nearing completion. What are your suggestions to avoid some of the issues that we commonly hear associated with Jefferson regarding traffic flow missing the community?
I think as far as the Highway 26 bypass goes, we have done a very good job with our entrances into the city. Highway 59, if you remember, was a two-lane road, and it had truck traffic, and I think Beth Beatty can confirm that that was a total mess in that intersection. That's what that could have been if we would not have done the planning that we did. Now we have this very nice major highway, an entrance into the city, and that is going to add to the things that we will also have to do. And I might also add that we did a lot of planning, even down to the details of the trees and the sides of the roads and the prairies and the walking trails and so on. The city is going to be challenged. I don't believe that we're going to be in the same position as Jefferson, because we are already more outgoing than Jefferson is. We have two groups of people that have been working on the signing and the marketing, and we're changing our logo. We're making our city into a destination city. I think that we are ahead of Jefferson. It's not going to keep things from coming up that might happen, but there's always going to be something. And the important thing is that we just keep moving forward with it and keep doing what we have to do.
All right, thank you. Anissa, same question to you. Highway 26 bypass nearing completion. What are your suggestions to avoid some of the issues associated with Jefferson and traffic missing our community?
Well, like Linda said, and even prior to when I was elected to the council, there was a lot of planning that was going on because we knew that this was going to take place. So there are some plans that are already in place as far as doing our branding, really investing in a sign that's going to be attractive and that's going to draw people into our city. We have the Goodrich Square Committee that's working on development in that area that's going to have specialty shops, have the splash park, have all of these attractions that are going to be areas that people are going to want to experience. It is going to be a destination. One of the things that we can't forget is that it's not always going to be about Highway 26. It's important that we focus on it now, but it also has to be part of an overall strategic plan for marketing and developing the city. So while it's important that we focus on it now, it can't be just the only thing. So we really have to make sure that we're bringing our community leaders, our business leaders, our city council together to keep moving forward, like Linda said, and continually strategically plan to not only position Milton for what's going to happen in the immediate future after the Highway 26 bypass, but what's going to happen in 10 years and what's going to happen in 20 years. And that's where you want to have elected officials that really have a vision and really are forward thinking and really educate themselves on where does the city of Milton need to be now, but where do we have to position ourselves to be in 10 or 20 years.
Thank you. Don, same question to you regarding the bypass.
Well, we had a lot of cars go through Milton every day. I would like to know how many of them stop. I think the people who come into Milton, we have businesses that are people-friendly. I think those people will continue to come into Milton. We have to, but we have to make sure that we get other people to come into Milton to understand how our business environment is. And I've already talked, I mean, one of the ways you can bring in people is with sporting events. I've already been talking to the Milton Rec, which is through our school district now, about trying to establish in our parks baseball tournaments, and hopefully later soccer and football, and others will do the same thing, of having tournaments that would bring people into our community from outside Milton and stop at our businesses, get used to our businesses, meeting with our businesses and developing couponing where we would, not have food at the parks, but have them go to our restaurants and give them some breaks for coming in. Just getting people comfortable coming into our city. I think that's a big key. I know the way I operate is if I feel comfortable, if I know where something is and I'm comfortable with the people there, I'm going to go there if I find a comfort level. And I think most people would be that way. I don't think the people who come to our businesses are going to stay away from them. But we also have to make sure that we keep the people we have coming into Milton, but bring in more people by sporting events, events that we have, our runs that we have in the city, different festivals that we can encourage people to come in to continue to have a new stream coming in and get them comfortable with our city.
Thank you, Don. Brett?
Well, the bypass is the issue, right? That's on top of us. It's the thing that is in the forefront of all of our minds. But here in less than a year, the bypass will exist, and literally thousands of fewer cars will travel through our city every day. Thousands. We're positioned to develop the bypass and the Highway 26 bypass corridor responsibly and in a way that fits with our community identity. We've identified areas where we'll be doing some industrial development. We've also taken steps to develop the other more commercial retail type developments. We have plans to locate and recruit a hotel property there. We've taken steps proactively to identify if that is a feasibility, and once we determine that it was, what are the next steps that we take to have that be an anchor of a new commercial retail center out there on that 26 bypass corridor. So we're doing what we need to do there, but I think that the next thing we'll have to do is admit to ourselves that that has fundamentally changed who we are in the region as a community. And we have to look at that and meet the challenges where they're at, but also see those challenges for what some of them are. They're opportunities, an opportunity to think differently, to react differently. That bypass is something we would not have chosen. Back in 2005, when it was first conceptualized, there's a different way that a lot of us on the council and a lot of us on staff would have liked it to have played out. That ship sailed. And so now we're making a good situation out of what we're left with, and I think we've done what we need to do to prepare. But the next thing is we need to think strategically, like Anissa says, about who are we and how do we react and how does that fit into our community brand and our community identity. We have a strong council who's been taking those steps, and I'll be excited to be a part of it going forward.
Right, thank you. Our next question, and for this one, we will start with Anissa. Kind of a related question to the bypass. Many businesses find the current sign ordinance to be somewhat restrictive. What are your thoughts on that as a whole, and specifically about the proposed changes to off-site signage?
Well, signs have really been an issue for a long time. I think it's been a burdensome process for some of our businesses. I don't necessarily think it has to be that way. However, I think we have to come together as a community to determine what kind of look, what kind of atmosphere, what kind of signs we want that reflect our values. I don't think we're always going to be in agreement on it, but I think there's always room for us to revise the sign ordinance that we have right now. I don't think that it should be an issue that is solely decided by the city council. We have our two committees that are working on development and tourism, and I think those are issues that should be looked at by those two committees, and they should be brought to the city council for a recommendation. I would encourage all of our residents and our business owners to really inform themselves about what's going on in those committees so they can have input on the signage and how that really is going to help determine really the future look and feel of our community.
Thank you. Don, your thoughts on the current sign ordinance and the proposed changes to the off-site signage?
Well, I think as we evolve as a city, our sign ordinance has to evolve. We have to make some changes in it to make it more beneficial for our businesses in the city. But at the same time, I think don't need to rush into it. I think, as Nissa said, to go to look at have the tourism committee look at some of the things. We need to take a look at what other cities have done who've had bypasses go by, not Jefferson, as an example, but other cities have had bypasses go by, and they've changed their sign ordinances, and to look how that has worked. And I also think that, we change our sign ordinances, but we're not going to change location of our businesses. And I think going together with that is when we rename some of our streets, which we're going to have to do, is to keep Old Highway 26, Old Highway 26, so people know that our business is still there. Don't rename it a different name to mess up people who had been to businesses before and they think, well, this business moved. So I think we have to take a look at those type of things. But I'd like us to take a look at models of other cities similar that in our situation where bypasses have went by. But I do believe that, we need to take a look at how businesses can advertise, because we are different now. They're not going to come right by us. They're going to go outside of us, and we need to make sure that they know if they want to visit our businesses that they can find them.
Thank you. Brett, the current sign ordinance, too restrictive, and how do you feel about the proposed changes?
Every community, every business community always feels the sign code is too restrictive, and every elected body always feels like sign code is too cumbersome and too big a task to revise. And so a lot of communities then agree to go our separate ways and just gripe and snipe at each other from across town, and that's all we do. That's not how we do it in Milton. Here in Milton, we get together as the mayor and city staff and some of our council members get together with folks from the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, and we start to figure out, have we identified the problem? And once we've identified the problem, what's the solution? That's how we've done it in my time on the council, and that's it's unique here among some of our peer communities. But the fact is that the sign code does have to change. Something has fundamentally shifted in the way commerce is conducted here in town, but we also have to balance that. That's a word I like, balance, but we do with the aesthetics and the way it impacts our neighborhoods and our residential neighborhoods especially in the long and the short term. I think there's a balance to be found there, between commerce and the hometown feel. And with a strong partner like the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce and individual business owners giving their good input and well-considered people on the council, I think we'll find that solution. But the time is now. I played a lot of sports growing up, and one of the things you hear a lot is be quick but don't hurry. And that's what we do here in town. We're as quick as we can be about things, but we don't rush it. We want to get it right, and that's what we'll do on this sign code, the sign ordinances, especially with respect to off-premise signs. We'll get there, and we'll be there before the deadline, before the bypass is actually operational.
Thank you. Linda, your thoughts on the sign ordinance and the proposed changes to off-site?
I would like to just give you a little bit of history on our signing ordinance. When we were looking at the redevelopment of Merchant Row, it was determined that that would be a historical look. And that was really the start of all of our more detailed sign ordinance, because the businesses wanted to have something that would be aesthetic. So that was the goal of that particular sign ordinance. As time has passed, there have been different styles of signs that have come in. You have your signs that have the messages, the running board messages. There's the fluorescent open flashing signs. We didn't used to have those. Those changes have been made, and the signing code has actually been looked at more than once, and I think that it's just going to be a work in progress as far as our signs inside the city. Unfortunately, we are restricted to what we can put on the highway by what the state requires. I am happy to see that because of our new commissions and committees, that the Plan Commission is working and the council with the MACC and tourism to come to a common ground. I think that's really important. The prior tourism committee that was a few years back made a very good effort in coming up with our little blue signs and our city logo. That was a very hard thing to do. But they did a good job, and I know that we'll do even better as time passes.
All right, thank you. Next question, and we will begin with Don. Don, the city is considering a proposal to move City Hall into the new Police Department building on Janesville Street. Do you think this is a good idea financially? Do you think this is a good use of space for City Hall, as well as the expansion of the library in this building?
I do now. Initially, when I saw the proposal, I mean, and this is the one thing when you come to a council meeting, you have your thoughts in your mind and what would be good, might not be good. And listening is a good skill, I think. And listening to everything that went on and listening to other people on the council, I am convinced now that that's a good thing to do. This building was built for a library. It belongs as a library. The library board and all of the people in the library are going to make a wonderful utilization of this, and it's going to be something that brings people into the community. We need the police station. We made a good purchase for that, and it just made sense to keep the police station administration together as long as it fit within our limits that we can borrow. And when the project first came in, it was over those limits, and I voiced my opinion that I thought, this is a project I can support, but we got to make sure we pare it down to what we can afford. And our staff and our architects have done that, and so now I think I'm right on with the project. I think it'll be a wonderful thing for the city when it's completed.
Thank you. Brett, your thoughts on City Hall moving out to the police department and this becoming an expanded library?
This is a good instance where you can tell the difference between how aggressively this council has acted to make the tough decisions versus some of the deferred maintenance that can sometimes happen. Our police detective down there has a bucket that he often has sitting on his desk to collect the rainwater as it falls through the roof every year, no matter how we try to patch that roof. Now, that might sound funny if you remember 10 or so years ago when a council spent almost $500,000 remodeling that building to try and meet the long-term needs of the police department. Anybody who looked at that could tell that the space was never going to be adequate, the flat roof was never going to work, and for just a couple bucks more at that time, they could have built a brand-new station. So we knew that wasn't going to work for our community. Our police department is a professional organization. They have come leaps and bounds from where they were even just a few years ago. So to invest in the police department down there when the Dean building was available at such an affordable price and met our programming needs so well, that makes sense. Now, the good thing about City Hall is that if we move it down there, that only adds about $818,000 to the project. That's the city administration portion. Now, it adds a lot of efficiencies being right there too. We're in position, though, to spend $750,000 of fund balance, of cash on hand, to afford almost all of that administration building. Now, what that means is that the library is going to have to expand into this space. They'll get the space, on day one, but they'll have to have their dollars parsed out a little bit over time. But that's how they expanded the last time. You build over time, and the library will benefit from the space initially, but I can't wait to see what it's going to look like 5 or 10 years from now. I'm proud to support it.
Thank you. Linda, the uniting of City Hall and the police department and the expansion of the library, good idea financially, good idea space-wise.
I think it's an excellent idea. Our City Hall needs to have more security. This is, the world isn't getting any nicer. It's getting uglier. We have a lot of information in our City Hall that needs to be locked up a lot better than it is now. The girls that are working up there, they're busy working. It's not an easy thing for them to always watch their back. I just feel it's a much more secure situation for them. As far as the police station goes, my first question was, is it enough space? Because when I originally got involved in the business of the city, which was about a year after I moved here, that was when that building was being remodeled. And I didn't think it was enough then, but I wasn't really in the position or felt like I should say anything, which I'm sorry about. The police station needs to have those upgrades. Those people are out there doing their job as best as they can. There's no reason why they should have to work under those types of conditions. Right now, the bond rating is excellent. Our loans that the city takes out has been, they always turn early, which is a good thing for us. The rates were low, the interest rates were low, the construction costs were low, so any of the remodeling that we need to do, we're getting at a good price. Our public library has just done magic with the space that it has, and there's no doubt in my mind that they will take this whole building and do wonderful things to it, and I support the whole project.
Thank you. Anissa, your thoughts on the plan?
Well, at times, it can take your breath away at how fast things move in the city of Milton. And we've done a lot. We did a new DPW building, and we knew that we were going to have to do something with our other facilities. Main priority was the police department. So we were so lucky. We looked at other plans. We looked at combining a huge city facility for fire, police, library, and city staff in the Burdick building, and we were excited about that, and I was disappointed that that fell through. However, you know, you never know what the next opportunity is going to bring to you, and the Dean building really was a very nice opportunity for us. It's a very structurally sound building, and we did purchase it at a very reasonable price, and it's going to meet our needs. One of the things that sometimes happens is opportunities present themselves, and you really do have to have leaders in place that are going to be able to recognize those opportunities and act on them. And sometimes there is a moderate amount of risk that you're going to have to take. However, just like we talk about, you know, how are we going to position ourselves for the Highway 26 bypass, this is part of it. Investing in our community and our facilities is part of sustainable, manageable, and continual growth for the city of Milton. I don't know if all of you know that our Milton Library is the busiest library per capita in Rock County. When I found that out, I was truly amazed. They don't have the flashiest, you know, waiting room or lobby. It's not lots of bells and whistles. It's a very modest facility, and yet we have the busiest library in the county. This library has the opportunity to expand, and like Brett said, it's not going to happen overnight, but this is another anchor to bring people in and to attract families and businesses. So I am in support of it, and I think we are making sound financial decisions, and there's that bell.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question, a couple of you have touched on this in previous answers, but I'm going to ask you all to address this, and we start with Brett. Brett, what new ideas do you have to help continually promote Milton as a tourist destination?
Well, you know, Milton is a tourist destination. There's, as we've started to talk about branding, which really started to come together a couple years ago, we've become more acutely aware as a city how much our local economy is impacted by the folks who come from the campgrounds. And those folks come from areas outside of the city of Milton. They come from Illinois, they come from Minnesota, they come from all over the place. But how much of that's being captured? How many of those dollars are coming into Milton businesses throughout the entirety of their stay? Sure, folks will stop at the Piggly Wiggly before they get out to the campground, but do they come back in to experience anything while they're here in town? I think the key when we develop our brand will be not just developing a pretty logo, not just developing a slogan that we smile and think how witty we were, but developing a branding strategy, something we can implement, something we can act on, and then expecting quantifiable results from that, and working with our partners at the campgrounds, working with our partners at our businesses here in town to not only identify what's working, but how well it's working and how we can make it work better. That idea of partnership, I talk a lot about partnerships, and I do because I just don't believe that any one person, any one city, any one council can do everything that needs to be done as quickly as it needs to be done and as well as it could be done if we just work together. I also love the word synergy. That's, you know, people coming together to make something bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's going to be so important when we talk about marketing and branding. Some of that has to be organic. Some of that has to be word of mouth. And a lot of that will come from making sure that our citizens are proud of who we are as a community, and that we're all kind of on board with who we are, what we are, and how we're going to sell it.
Thank you. Linda, your thoughts on new ideas you might have to help promote Milton as a tourist destination?
Well, I have always thought that we do not expand our tourism efforts far enough, north or south. We are on the state line. We have people coming in from Illinois. We are not that far from the Iowa state line, and I think that we have markets that we just need to work a little harder on. We have people driving through the state to go to Minnesota. I remember there was a time when one of the Rock County representatives had made the comment to me that nobody from Illinois was going to come because it was just Chicago people. And I was quite taken by that, not only because I'm from central Illinois, but because all of my family comes up here to go up to the Dells. So I just kind of felt like that was not working for us. I think that Milton is going to really need to work not only with the outside businesses in the townships, but I think it's important that we work with the actual townships. I think we need to work with Newville. I think we need to go and do a little farther out towards Fort Atkinson. I think that we need to go west and east. We just need to expand all of our tourism throughout this part of the state.
Thank you. Anissa, new ideas that you have to help continually promote Milton as a tourist destination?
One of the ideas that I really liked that we did last year, and it's certainly something that I think that we can expand on, and it also speaks to what Linda was talking about, but when we had the Rock Aqua Jays in Janesville, and they have their national championship there, and we know that there's going to be thousands and thousands of visitors coming to Janesville for that, is that we can tailor something going on in Milton. One of the things that they did is some of the hotels put packages together about, what can you do in Janesville, but what are some of the other attractions. So one of the things that we can capitalize is what's going on in some of these bigger communities where we can have festivals, we can have walking tours. There's so many creative ideas that our business people have. So really working in partnership with what's going on in other communities. And I know that Don touched on this too, but we have the ability to develop our own identity, our own specialty festival. I mean, there's you can take a little bit from Madison or wherever. You could have a little jazz festival. We already have concerts in the park. There's things that we've already started that we can expand on. We have our Christmas walk. Well, what if we had an evening Christmas parade, or what if we had a Halloween parade, or things that aren't going on in other communities, or things that maybe other communities have developed, but they're far enough away where we can draw a crowd in here. So I think that's one of the areas that we can continually support what our businesses have for ideas, but it's our responsibility to be researching that and to be creative and to come up with some more ideas. I mean, that's one of the exciting things about Milton is we really do have some room to expand for tourism.
Thank you. Don, you touched a little bit on this earlier, but your thoughts on promoting Milton as a tourist destination?
Well, one of the ideas I've always tossed around with my poker group, I have two
Rod Hilton's part.
Rod Hilton and Dan Reese, two old historians, along with a younger historian like myself. But I've since I got on council, I've constantly been bending Jerry's ear about, when we get all these other things settled, how about a trolley? I would love to see a trolley for the city of Milton, a trolley that would run on weekends. We could use fall, spring through fall. We have one of the greatest historical treasures in the state here. And if we get a hotel, we're marketing for a hotel. I mean, the packages we could put together. We have a beautiful lake, Storrs Lake. We've got walking trails. We've got Ice Age trails. I mean, there's things that we can do. We've got a winery that we can package, and I think we got to promote it. The trolley could run out to the campgrounds. We could bring people in from the campgrounds. trade off every week, dropping these people off at a different restaurant, bring our restaurants on board, Charming Bees on board. I think there's a lot of things we can do in marketing that if we think about it. And I've been to a lot of cities, and I've taken a lot of historical tours and a lot of different trolleys. And yes, we can't afford a new trolley. I'm not saying that, but I mean, there's Chicago, all over they get rid of old trolleys. Well, finally we have a place to put them, take care of them in a public works building. We have a mechanic that could fix them up. We don't have the best because we're just using it for a weekend, but it would be something I think we should try, and I think it'd be a good thing for Milton. And again, we have people, well, I know 3 of us who would love to give historical tours, and someone like yourself, Jim, included.
Thank you. I'd like to remind audience members that you do have the opportunity to submit questions. If you'd like to do that, please raise your hand, and Mark Warren will give you an index card to do that. I'm going to use a question from the audience now, and we will start with Linda. Linda, with all the new projects coming, what is your upper limit on spending? And the audience member has asked, please frame your answer in a percentage increase you would allow. Bet you didn't know there'd be math in this.
Well, what I can tell you is that some of the prior councils that I have worked on, we have set a number. It was actually set at 4%. Well, guess what happened? We had our buildings that all needed to be replaced. Yeah, we maintained our roads as best as we could, but for the most part, to set an actual percentage is a very hard thing to do. In order to figure out exactly what your budget is going to be, each committee is going to turn in what they would like. Each of the different departments are going to have their needs. And then you have your basic run of, the cost of doing business in the city. I would like to say that, okay, we'll only raise your taxes 6%, because I know the 4% is not going to work. However, I don't know what's going to happen with the price of gas. And I don't know what it's going to cost to repair one of our trucks. Those things they're things that happen that you just don't know about. So I guess I can't really, if I could do it, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to go any more than 6, and that's just to maintain what we have, but I can't promise.
Right. Thank you. Anissa, thoughts on an upper limit on spending and a percentage increase that you would allow?
Well, right now, we are probably at the max of what we can do as far as projects. And if you look at what we have in our general fund and what is going to be a responsible debt limit, the police station, having City Hall there, that's a big project. We pay off almost $900,000 in debt a year, and we do not levy for all of that debt. Some of it is levied for, and other parts of it are used, we use shared revenue to pay that. So as far as the overall picture of the financial health of the city, it really is, it's structured very well. The debt is structured well. Like Linda had said, we're doing this at a time where interest rates are low, where building costs seem to be reasonable. So as far as having any more spending, I wouldn't be in favor of spending any more money than what we're already spending on projects. And I think, from my perspective, I'm a homeowner. I have a kid in college, I have a kid in high school, and if I can't afford it, I'm not going to ask my neighbor to pay for it either. So, I certainly am not promising that, taxes are not ever going to go up, because I don't think that's realistic. I think when we're investing in the city, we do it as a whole, as a community. We make these investments because we deserve a quality of life and a city that's going to provide that, and it does take our money to invest in that together. But the projects that we have going right now, that's about all that we can do at this time.
Thank you. Don, with all the projects coming, what's your upper limit on spending and a percentage increase that you would be in favor of allowing?
Well, I agree with all the projects that we're doing. We've, as a council, I think we've pretty much agreed upon that, and they fit within our debt limit according to our financial advisors. To set a percentage, I think, is going to be difficult, because everything I read coming out of Madison for towns and cities like ours is that the money we're getting from the state is going to be flat, just like it is for the school districts. And the school districts, there's 54 of them, have less money from the state than they did 10 years ago. So what's going to happen to our city? It was hard to set a levy or to say a number until we know what we get from the state, because I think we've done a good job. I mean, we're not overstaffed. In fact, I think we're understaffed. Our staff is asked to do a lot more, I think, than many other staffs. Our public works people, we were understaffed by 2 for most of the year, and we're just catching up there now, so there's no place there that we can cut. And we've reduced our liabilities to our workers by restructuring many things. So there isn't much that we can do to slash anything there anymore, and that's a big part of your budget. So I would be more comfortable answering that question after we know what our state is going to give us as a city. Then I think you could set, a limit on what we could spend.
Thank you. Brett, thoughts on upper limit on spending and a percentage increase you would allow?
Well, 4 years ago, when I was elected first, we had a different city administrator at that time, and one of the things I remember was having a conversation with him where I said, hey, we need to figure out a way, if we're going to do all this additional spending, to pay for it with some cuts, because there has just got to be a little bit of waste in city government. And I remembered him telling me very passionately, there is nowhere to cut in city government. If you cut anything, you'll be cutting services. Well, I didn't want to do that. Well, in the last 2.5 years, we found over $300,000 that we could cut out of city government, and it didn't impact service levels. We made dramatic changes, switching to our own health insurance group, getting out of the state health insurance plan. That saved a chunk of change. We used to have a telephone in every well house and every location that any city worker ever would be. That saved more money than you might think. And when you put it all together, that's what we've done. We've cut. We are at that point now where if we do more cutting, we probably will start to look at a little bit lower service level. But if that's what we want to do, then that's what we'll do. I can't commit to you that taxes aren't going to go up. In fact, I know as things stand right now, taxes are going to go up next year and probably the year after that, and then we'll see a leveling effect. What I can commit to you is that I and the rest of my fellow council members and whomever's mayor next will constantly work to make sure that every dollar that we spend, we look at as if we're stewards of that tax dollar. It's your dollar, and we want to spend it wisely. If there's a way to offset necessary spending to maintain service levels and the quality of life here with responsible cuts, I commit to voting for that cut. I can't give you a percentage, but my goal is to keep Milton affordable for everyone.
All right, thank you. Well, we've come to the time where we're going to ask each of you to summarize your candidacy for us and give you your reasons why we should vote for you for Milton City Council. Anissa, it's your turn, so if you would like to start.
Like I had said before, the 2 years that I've served on the council have really been enjoyable to me. When you run for a city office, you do research, you try to educate yourself on all the issues, and then you get elected, and then you realize you really didn't know what you don't know. So it has been an educational process. It's been an exciting one. I think Milton has a bright future. It really does. We have so many things that are going on. But at the same time, I have concerns that we still keep this small town atmosphere, that we're true to our values and we're true to the character of the city of Milton. I want Milton to still remain this tight-knit community, this small town where everybody loves to hang out, to talk with their neighbor. You can walk or ride a bike wherever you want, or you can get on Don's trolley. It's where children and families flourish. It's
I'll
where
give you a good tour.
It's where businesses thrive, and our growth is sustainable, and it's socially responsible. And we keep in mind that we have a majestic landscape, and we have lots of environmental assets here. And, I'm not for special rights for businesses, but I am for encouraging responsible growth and attracting families and businesses and industries that are going to complement our quality of life and ensure that we maintain this quality of life for our kids, for our grandkids, and that, hopefully my kids will graduate and want to come back here and raise their families. So I would encourage you to vote for Anissa Welch for City Council on April 2nd.
Thank you. Don, your summary and your reasons why we should vote for you.
Well, I guess what Anissa said is a lot of things that I feel too, is that when I ran for city council, I came in with the idea, I wanted to be part of the parks, and I want to thank Mayor Chesmore, because I did call him and say, I wasn't on the Parks Committee, and I said, this is really my passion, this is what I do. I've been involved in sports for a long time, and the mayor obliged, and I think our committee has done a lot of good, maybe things that people haven't seen, and that's thanks to Linda being on that committee too. She's very proactive, and we've done a lot of things. But like Anissa said, I've learned a lot. I mean, when you first come on the council, there's a lot of things that you don't know that you find out about, and you grow as a person. And again, I first came with that, had preset ideas, and I think as I've been on the council, my mind has become more open. And when we've done some things, I mean, I like to get out in the business community and talk to people, or get out and we've just changed the sign ordinance on allowing signs in our city parks. And I've asked the council we're going to be asking the council to reconsider what we first did, because I talked to other business owners, and they thought that maybe that we were a little expensive with our signs. And so trying to listen to people and getting a feel for what I think is right, I think is an important part of being in city government. And I like talking to people, I like listening to people. Not everybody always agrees with me, I don't always agree with everybody, but I will listen to them. And you don't make decisions to try to make friends, you make decisions to try to help the majority of people what you think would be good for the city. And that's why I'm running. I want to do what I think is going to help the majority of people in this city, and that's what I'm going to do. So I hope for that reason you will vote for me.
Thank you, Don. Brett, why do you deserve to be reelected?
Well, I almost had one more competitor in the race. My 6-year-old has been telling me that he wants to run for city council too. I don't know why. He thinks that's something he wants to do. But he knows that Dad goes somewhere and has meetings at night, and I tell him about some of the things that we do. And I guess it gets me thinking, about that legacy. A long time ago, my grandparents came here to Milton, and then my parents grew up here, and I'm here raising my kids, and I hope they'll be here too. And here at the city council, sometimes when we're talking about what our website should be, and other things that maybe don't seem like they have long-lasting impacts, every once in a while we get to do things that do help to create that legacy. And there's a couple of wall plaques back there that have all the names of past councils and past mayors on it. And I don't know, every once in a while I just look at that, and it's not like I see ghosts or anything like that, but you see those names and you see people you remember, Mayor Dabson and some other people, and you think, they sat in these seats and they tried to do good, and they stayed up late and were away from their families, and we do that because we love this community. I'm 32 years old. I have 3 kids at home. I have a lot of things asking for my time. But at the end of the day, the work that I do here is the thing I'm most proud of. We've done good things. We've done hard things. We've done unpopular things. But when it comes down to it, to work with a group of people like the elected officials and the city staff, that's a great privilege. And whether I get elected or not to either mayor or council on April 2nd, it's been a good time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Linda, former council person, lone challenger in this race. Why should you be back on the council?
Well, what I can tell you is what I have always said in the past when I have ran for council, when I have been on city committees or commissions, whatever it was. I feel that it's very important that our council and our mayor know what discussions are taking place in our committees and our commissions. It's a time thing. It's always a time thing. And I also feel that it's very important that you take the time to research what needs to be done. I am not afraid to get out at Piggly Wiggly or walking down the street, knocking on your door saying, this is what's coming up, what do you think? Because I know that you're not going to come here. Unfortunately, the school has not continued with the cable channel televisions of our meetings, which makes it even harder. But that said, I just would like to say that right now, the city and the Planning Commission are working on the comprehensive plan. This is a 5-year plan, and this is what we do to lay out what the future growth of the city is going to be. It's just a guideline. It's not set in stone. These are the same things that we've done in the past to get where we are today, to get that map up there, the new bypass. I'm very happy to say that I was part of that in the past, and I would like to be a part of that in the future also. I would like to see that our city roads, especially Madison Avenue, is addressed with the Blackhawk Tech coming into the city, which is a wonderful thing. And then I would also just like to say that one of my big priorities has always been organized, proactive growth, because I think that that is what we need, is to always look for the future. So I hope that you will write me in, Linda Clark. And there's the bell.
All right. On behalf of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank all of you, as well as all of the candidates that participated in the earlier forums. Also like to thank members of the audience for attending tonight. Thank you to the city staff and to Local Vision TV and to the staff of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all, and please come out and vote on April 2nd.